Don't tread on me.
Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Back for another video this morning on a beautiful, bright Thursday morning. Whew, it's cold. Brisk, baby, brisk. So I get up this morning and I check my internet. God, I'm in a bad habit of just jumping right online. You know, after my morning routine, I should go exercise or something. You know, do something more constructive with my life than be on the internet. But hey, I'm an admitted news junkie. So, anyhow, hope you're all doing well this morning. The topic we're going to cover today is going to be triggering, to say the least. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, before I start, I want to recommend that if you have the time to do some reading, that there's a lot of good resources on the internet on just about every topic that you can imagine. And these resources are not available in the social public sphere. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, what I mean is that people just are unaware that these resources are out there. Okay? Now, let me give you an example. Almost everybody on the planet has heard of Pew Research, right? Pew is like the end-all be-all for fact-checking and fact-finding and producing the most accurate statistics, and it's famous for this, right? Well, there are other companies out there that do this, and you just have to look around for them. And they compete with Pew. Mostly they're think tanks coming out of universities in the United States, Canada, and Europe. Now, you may not have any interest in this, okay, and I can totally understand. It's just boring stuff. But if you, like me, have an interest in following politics because politics absolutely follows you, then you're going to want to look into this stuff. If you, like me, have an interest in Islam and Muslims, and not in a positive way, I might add, then you might want to check some of these materials out for yourself. Because this morning I have had my faith in Pew Research shaken just a little bit. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. So, let me explain why here. Now, if any of you who have watched, if you're new to this channel, let me just say this. If you check out my material, you're going to come to the conclusion that I am a white supremacist, racist, bigoted, homophobe, extremist, and, the homegrown American variety, just violent terrorist. I am the boogeyman under the bed, baby. And at first, I used to just reject out of hand people that would label me with these labels. Oh, I'm a horrible, vile, violence-loving. Well, I mean, I do like to fight occasionally, But it's beside the point. So if you value things like the family unit, a cohesive society, heritage, if you want to preserve your heritage or your culture, it doesn't matter what color you are, then hey, we're on the same page. And unless you're white, you're probably not going to get called any of the things that I get called, which is great. But this is just to inform you that I've taken those on rather as a badge of pride lately, rather than somebody saying something demeaning or derogatory to or about me, right? You can kind of flip that on its head if you really try. And it's not that hard. So, this morning, I get up and I go to one of my normal news sites called the Gatestone Institute. And I'm going to provide a link in the description below to the particular article that I'm going to talk about this morning. Now, in this article, they were talking about the population of Muslims in Europe. Now, as we all know, anyone who's been following this, the Muslim population in Europe has pretty much exploded over the last decade. And there's a multitude of reasons for it. The least of which is poverty and war in those war-torn Muslim countries. That's right. I said the least of which, right? There are reasons that are more compelling than that for those people to migrate to non-Muslim lands, believe it or not. I know, it sounds absolutely insane, doesn't it? Well, we might get into some of those reasons in another video, but this is a video just about the population growth and decline of the European population in Europe, specifically of white Europeans, right? Caucasian stock. And there's a number of reasons for that too. The least of which is the declining birth rate. That's right. Sounds crazy for me to say such a thing, don't you think? Well, I have my reasons for saying that. Yeah, the reasons that the white European Caucasian stock is declining in Europe has less to do with the declining birth rate than it does the ideology behind the social norms and mores that cause the declining birth rate in the first place. And like I said, we'll have to get into that in another video. I'm already 6 minutes into this video and I haven't even started talking about the topic at hand. So let's just get into it here. All right. So Pew Research count as of 2016 in Europe in general, okay, they estimate that by 2010 and Pew Research counts the European Union as including 28 countries. Okay, now we know there's more than 28 countries in Europe, but this is what Pew Research counts as being legitimate European Union countries. 28 of them, okay? Now in 2010, the Muslim population in all 28 countries combined was 19.5 million, consisting of 3.8% of the entire population of those 28 countries. By 2016, it was 25.5 million, equating to 4.9%, almost 5%, a full 5%. Now this is the end of 2017, so we can just, I think we can safely round that up 1 percentage point and just call it an even 5% across the board, okay? Now why is that important? Well, there is another group, believe it or not, that does excellent research work, excellent statistics, and this is where you're going to be shocked. Guess what this group is called? The acronym is UCIDE, UCIDE, or UCIDE, right? It stands for Unión de Comunidades Islámicas de España, right? The union of the Islamic community in Spain. And what they do is something very similar to what Pew Research does. They study demographics, they study gentrification, they study the population of the native population versus the immigrant population versus the grandfathered in immigrant populations. So they do a lot of good research, it turns out, and it turns out they're a little more accurate than Pew Research. Apparently, Pew Research fell short in its 2016 count by 750,000 Muslims in Spain and by just over 1 million Muslims in Germany. Now the reason they didn't count the 1 million Muslims in Germany that are unaccounted for is because they determined that those people were not going to receive refugee status. Now they still immigrated there. In other words, they still physically went there and they still physically got on the dole. In other words, they took the money that the German government was handing to them. They kept the food, they kept the housing, they kept the cars, they kept the free education, the free medical care, etc., etc. They just weren't refugees officially. Now, I don't know what kind of refugee you have in mind, but the refugees I have in mind live in camps. and it's a very temporary situation, and they don't get free medical care, they don't get free houses, like, other than the tent. They don't get an actual house. They absolutely don't get free cars, and they absolutely do not get free cash. Now, why am I ranting about this? Well, the reason I'm ranting about this is because I have long suspected that the 1% of the Muslim population in the United States is a complete lie. Right? It's estimated, and I've watched this over the last 2 years, that the estimate never changes. We supposedly only have, out of 350 million people in this population, only 1% of them are Muslims. Now, I'm not going to do the math for you. You do the math. But I will tell you this much. When I live here in Sacramento, California, right? The epicenter of liberal la la land lunacy. It sucks. It's great too, because I'm getting to witness one of the most important times in history in a country where life has never ever been better for anyone ever in the history of humankind on this planet to date that we know of. And it's just fascinating to watch. So on the one hand, I can understand why people want to come here. On the other hand, I'm of the opinion that they should stay the fuck out, because they aren't bringing anything positive to this country. Now, when I go out on the town to run errands or go shopping or whatever, it is a 100% chance that I will encounter Muslim women. Now, it's much more difficult to differentiate the men unless they go with that full beard minus the mustache, right? That's an indicator that you're looking at a Muslim man, especially if they're of Pakistani, Palestinian, or Arab descent. Now, I don't care what ethnicity they are. Call me racist. I don't give a fuck. If you were an Irish Muslim and you were wearing the beard minus the mustache and you were going around, reciting the Shahada and promoting Islam, I would hate you just as much as I hate an Arab who is a Muslim. Okay? Yes, I am prejudiced against Muslims because of the ideology of Islam. So I'm saying that 1% figure is a total lie. There's a lot more Muslims here in the United States than they're telling us, and they're keeping that from you for a purpose. It's so that people like me don't wake you up. People like me who say, look, the state's lying to you, the state's lying to you, the state's lying to you, will have no effect. Because all you can do is go to the more trusted, more credible sites, like Pew Research, and say, oh, who's that little pipsqueak terrible Tory telling me there's more than just 1% of the population? Look at Pew Research. Okay, well now you know that Pew Research isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I'm saying there's something behind that. I'm saying that Pew Research is either being deliberately hamstrung, my bad. Either that or they're lying to us. Now, I don't know which one it is, and frankly, I don't care. What I do care about is, other than paying my rent, landing a decent job, saving some money, getting the hell out of California, or making up my mind between getting out of California and staying and fighting for California, because this is my state. This is where I was born. This is my home. This is my city. Muslims weren't here when I was a kid. This was a Republican state when I was a kid. There was no liberal la la land here like there is now when I was a kid. But you know what? I'm sick of going out into my city and seeing people that represent an ideology that wants to convert, subjugate, or kill me. I am sick of it. I want them gone. Don't you? Let's figure out how we can make that happen. Have a great day.